Hello, everyone. This is Karen Lorre. I met Karen in the X3 user group. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Karen. Karen, and let everyone know kind of what you do, what you're about. Let's get going.
Yes, hi, I'm Karen Lorre, and thanks for having me, Tyler. I feel really appreciative of you asking me. And
Of course.
um, I am an author. I've written 3 books. I'll just show you my books. Chronic Pleasure. This helps people let go of pain and fatigue, and I coach people to do that. This one is Effortless Enchantment. It's a memoir. And then this one is Chronic Pleasure in Relationships, and I help especially women, but could be anybody, have better relationships with men to inspire the best in men. So thank you so much for having me here, and let's go.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I did find you in the X3 user group. You definitely caught my attention because of your positivity. As I've told you, you are the most positive person I have ever come across. You're always smiling, always happy, always singing, always dancing. I love your videos in the X3 user group. You're just kind of like doing a little kind of twirl or dance move, and then you get right in the X3. I just smile every time seeing that. I love it. You're just a very positive person, and it's very infectious. I really enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the kind of infection I want to
Yeah.
give to other people.
Of course.
I want to be contagious in that way because life
Right.
is meant to be enjoyable and fun, and so I like to dance and I like to do the X3. So
That's good. Yeah, like a lot of people, I mean, life can be very stressful. Life is what you make it, basically. Life can be very stressful. It can be very fun. It could be very draining. It could also be very positive experience and very beneficial, but it's what we make of it. And a lot of us, we allow life to just kind of take over the stresses of life, the situations we're in. And it can be hard, but I mean, you really help people kind of organize their thoughts, organize their mindset, really dig into relationships and just how they kind of personally feel about themselves. So I just want to kind of go into, I mean, each book that you wrote, kind of what they're about, your process in writing them. So let's start with the first one you showed, and just kind of explain that one a little bit. What was your reason behind writing that? What basically made you want to kind of get into that?
the reason I wrote this book is I used to have chronic pain. I used to be suicidal. I used to have depleted adrenals. I used to have my thyroid was off. My hair was thinning. You can't tell because I have my hair back, but it's thicker now.
Mhm.
My I had to wear glasses to read. I don't. All these things have healed. I had narcolepsy. It's healed. I had all these things that had been sick with, and ADHD. No, panic attacks. Um, Anxiety, PTSD. I was getting my letters mixed up. PTSD, bipolar, all these things I was diagnosed with. And I used some things that I understood through my own personal experience and through all these other things. And I ended up healing from that. And the reason I actually wrote the book is because it this book, when I wrote it, I had just recovered from a hand injury that I had where I accidentally severed 3 tendons on the back of my hand, which I
Ooh.
don't recommend. And what was so fascinating is I had worked for I think it's like 9 years before that happened. I've been in this state of joy for like 13 years now. But I think when that happened, that was 4 years ago. Yeah, that's nine. And and what happened was when I went to the surgery, when I went to the ER, they said, "How many pain pills do you want? You have to get an actual hand surgeon to help you because we can't do it." And I said, "I don't need any pain pills." And they're like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Sure." And they're, "How are you getting home?" "I'm driving." Are you okay to do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then, so that was fine. And then I went to then I got the surgery, and the surgeon said, "Do you want to be under? Or do you want local?" I was just local. And so then he's telling me jokes during the surgery, and I'm just laughing. And that was really fun. "How many pain pills do you want?" "None." So they said you should at least get 10. And so I got the 10, but I took like half of one and I was like, "This is stupid. I don't even need it."
Mhm.
So I didn't. And then I went like to the hand therapist, and they said, "What level is your pain?" And I said, "None." And what was so interesting to me, they were like 1 through 10, and I was like, "Zero." And it was so interesting to me because in hand therapy, there were other patients there. They were all suffering, and I was having fun. Yes, I had to get my hands stronger. Yes, I had to get more flexibility. I had to let the little tendons repair, all that stuff. But it was a good experience for me, a really good experience for me. And so when I was uh I'd say, like 10 months out of that experience, I found a woman that I love that helps people write their books. And so she doesn't actually like sit there with you and write it with you, but she has an editing team and she helps you define what you're going to write about. And that was the experience I wanted to write about, is how I overcame all this physical pain. I have chronic pleasure. That's why I wrote the book called Chronic Pleasure. And yeah, so everything in my physiology changed. I'm super steady. I don't get triggered in a negative way. So that I don't have PTSD. I don't have panic. Excuse me. No pain. My thyroid is balanced. My adrenals are happy. No more. I don't have narcolepsy anymore. That's supposed to be forever.
That's
Don't have
amazing.
it. So all these things happen, and I just thought, gosh, people need to know about this.
Hmm.
People need to know how to heal this. And I also started coaching people on it. And then I watch other people who have things that are supposed to be, lifelong or really bad. And I watch them get more active, have more fun, heal from things that are supposed to be unhealable. And I can tell you more later, but
Yeah,
yeah, so that's why I wrote that first book.
that's amazing. That's a lot. And that's the same thing kind of in my experience. I went through most of my life, a lot of brain fog, a lot of unclarity. And just my experiences going through that, it really held me back in life. It took me a long time to become the person I am today. And I am going to write my own book eventually, the journey I went through, what I overcame, how I got to where I am now. And I think that's great. Like you were inspired to write your own books and you have 3 of them. That's amazing. I'm only kind of just considering the first one for now. Can see how that goes, but that's amazing. So let's talk about just the depression you were talking about. Why do you think you had depression? Why do you think your kind of adrenals were off balance? What was that diet related? What was that?
The reason anybody has any negative emotion is because to me, this is how I perceive it, is because we are going in the direction of what we don't want. Did you ever play that game Marco Polo when you're a
Mhm.
kid?
Yeah.
So you're in the pool and you have your eyes closed and you have to tag somebody and they're going warmer, 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 colder, 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 right? As you get closer and further. And negative emotion to me now is sort of like the bumps on a freeway or Marco Polo. When I have a negative emotion, it's telling me that I'm going closer to further from what I want. And when I have a positive emotion, it tells me I'm going towards what I want. And so with the depression that I had, I didn't understand that at the time. And I was going to doctors that told me that, oh, when you have abuse as a child, when you have sexual abuse as a child, you're going to be depressed. When you have traumatic experiences, you're going to have PTSD, you're going to have anxiety. They didn't help me understand how to shift it. And so, I mean, they tried, they had ideas, but it didn't actually work. And so, when I started to understand that, I had like a spiritual awakening. It wasn't as much a mental thing as it was an energetic or spiritual understanding. And I realized that when I'm having fun, I have energy. Narcolepsy is where you're falling asleep 20 times a day.
Mhm.
When I was having fun, I wasn't depressed. When I was having fun, money was coming to me, and I just saw the pattern so clearly in my life that I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then I started to receive a lot of clarity about how to shift it.
Okay. So it sounds like a lot of it was in your head and maybe not diet related, because in my experience, it was mostly diet related. So you're saying with you, it was just more kind of, I don't know, external things, the way, and also internal things in just your mind, how you kind of handled situations, how you thought about certain things. I mean, it was all basically in your mind, it sounds like.
Well, so we have a brain in our head, in our heart, in our
Mhm.
belly, in our fascia. We have brain all over our body. So the first thing that I did, I realized how I could heal the traumas that I'd had early in my childhood, which were part of what was going on. Once I healed those, my diet changed naturally. So my diet, I'm sure, had some input into the shift, but
Mhm.
the biggest input was changing my emotions, because I got to the place where I was really steady emotionally, where I was just in love with everybody and everything, and I still am.
Mhm.
And then I saw, this is what happened, is I realized everybody's so freaking sweet, and the world is so sweet, and everybody's so sweet. And after like realizing that for a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two, I don't remember exactly, but I just couldn't eat sugar anymore. It was too it was too heavy for me.
Mhm.
And so sugar just fell away. And I like sugar, but it was gone. It was no longer in my, I didn't have a desire for it anymore. And this is weird because I had tried to stop sugar, since I was in college and learned about how damaging it can be.
Mhm.
And this happened without any effort. And it's been 12 or 13 years now that I haven't had sugar.
Yes.
And grains fell away. Sort of similarly, I noticed when I felt energized, it was usually when I was eating something that didn't have any grains in it. And then when I stopped the grains, I realized I had more consistent energy. So
Mhm.
that could be part of it, but it came from being in this place of what I want to call alignment, where I'm just happy. People can be upset with me and I don't care. I'm just happy. I mean, I'm compassionate, but I'm not going to let somebody outside of myself anymore. It sure
Right.
did before, but not let anybody outside of myself determine how I feel. It
Right.
is not so much in my mind, because our body is a reflection of our subconscious mind. That's how I perceive it. I might be wrong, but
I like it.
I perceive our body as a real reflection of what's going on underground that we're not always aware of.
Mhm.
That's what I help my clients with, is to release those subconscious things that get in the way from being able to have happiness in an effortless way. Because it's
Right.
meant to be natural, it's meant to be effortless, but it's really hard when you've got all this either trauma, and the trauma doesn't have to be a big deal trauma. It could be just, a teacher yelling at you or giving you a bad grade, or
Right.
some your parents fighting in front of you when you're too little to stop it, you know
Right.
so yeah.
That's the thing. It's like we have only been through what we have been through. And it's not, we can't compare ourselves to other people. It's like, yeah, my problem might be small compared to another person's problem, but for me, that's a big problem. So that is a big deal to me. That's the biggest thing. We're all different. We all come from different walks of life, different backgrounds. So we can't say like, oh, like my problems are a lot worse than yours, or your problems are a lot worse than mine. It's just, to us personally, the problem might be a really big deal.
Yeah,
That's a huge thing.
right. And it is recognizing, oh, there's things that are just little things that are what can really take people down, because
Hmm.
they think, oh, that's no big deal, and then bam, they're on the floor emotionally.
Hmm.
But it is if you honor where somebody is, you're not trying to make them be happy before they are, because there's a process, and you have to kind of unlock a few things first. And letting people be where they are, they they're not trying to get happy. They're allowing, if they have someone who can actually help them, they're allowing themselves to be shifted so that happiness comes up.
Hmm. And I like what you said there. It becomes effortless. Like when you're trying too hard to be happy, trying too hard to make things go well and correctly, I mean, it's gonna make it more difficult. Like it's effortless. Like successful business owners, like they get to a point where they're just in this flow state where it's just effortless. They're not really having to try that hard. Everything is just going their way. Not all the time. Like obviously, there's things that come up where are very stressful and they have to deal with it. But for a lot of the time, very successful business owners, they're in this constant flow state where they're really not having to try that hard. They're just so balanced in their thinking and their actions and their doing, that it's nothing is really that big of a deal. They don't have to try that hard. And that's an amazing
Yeah.
place to be.
Yeah, and it feels amazing, especially when I used to try really hard, to know the
Right.
difference. It's night and day. It's a
Right.
totally different world. And I would say you don't even have to try.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like any trying gets in the way for me. It's not even trying that hard. It's just like, if I'm trying at all, it's too much, and so I just don't do it. I don't try really, but I do things, but it's not an effort to do it. Like I'm learning other languages, and I work out, and I like to go to fatigue when I work out, but I don't feel like I'm trying. I feel like I can't wait to go to fatigue. I can't wait to see how many reps I can get in before I go to fatigue. Right. So it's a different understanding of things. But I used to try a lot, and the effort is really a big part of what caused me the depression, because when you have a lot of effort, you don't get what you want very easily.
Hmm.
And the effort feels like you have to do it, but that's just old programming I learned for myself.
Hmm.
Like all the effort I had been putting into stuff was just programming I had from well-meaning people who think you have to work hard, who think you have to try really hard, who think you have to, um, they don't mean to be off, but it's off
Hmm.
because if you're having a good time with things, you learn faster,
Hmm.
you retain it better, you have no stress. I mean, I don't have nothing stresses me out. I enjoy everybody and I enjoy everything, and so that's like it's totally different. But it was a process for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. Um, so I mean, with trying and not trying, I mean, and also drawing people towards you. I mean, you just, for example, you didn't have to try to allow me to find you. I found you in the extra user group. Your vibe, who you are, brought me to you, and that's just another testament to you did not try. I found you. I found you interesting. I asked if you wanted to come on this podcast, and you're interested. It's very simple. Like you put out this vibe that really I connected with, and I found you. And I think that's how a lot of your clients are finding you. So you're just putting out this positive persona, this just being about you, and people just, they want it. They come towards you, and you're probably getting a lot of business because of that. It's just effortless. It's amazing.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that I'm not putting it out there. That's just who I am now.
Yeah.
A different thing. It's a different thing than like I know people will go, oh, I got to put out my best face or whatever.
Mhm.
I got to be my best when I'm on social media or when I'm out in the world. But I just decided, like, I just want to feel my best all the time, and I've gotten to that place. Something shifted. I don't exactly remember when it was, but at some point I had been trying
Mhm.
to feel good, and then something shifted and I was free, and it
Mhm.
was effortless.
Yep.
And it was a giant departure from anything I had ever known and from what most of anybody ever teaches.
Mhm.
I'd never it's just it's a totally different world.
Yeah. And I experienced a similar thing. I kind of call it like a paradigm shift. The old way I used to think, I don't think that way anymore. I literally felt something shift from the back of my head to the front of my head. I'm this new person now. I have new goals. I have new purpose. And I have no choice but to just go with this new flow, go with this new state, and just to be successful in it. I mean, it's amazing. Literally, everything changed for me. All of a sudden, just one day, I was just like, I can do this. I'm going to go for it. And I'm not going to stop until I get it done. I love it.
But I love it. Yeah.
Um,
And it feels like you didn't use the word compelling, but it's like it feels compelling when you're on a path that's right for you.
mhm.
It's like the path carries you
Mhm.
if you relax and you let it, instead of you having to trudge the path.
Mhm.
And I think that's the difference. And that's it becomes that feeling of being compelled. I have two podcasts. And one of the podcasts, both of them I felt compelled to do. And one of them, it's called Stories We Love. And I interview people. Oh, John Jaquish is coming out today.
Nice.
I interviewed him, but in this podcast, he's the guy who invented X3 and
Mhm.
ostrich, just for your users, your
Yeah.
but for this podcast, I didn't even mean to do it, but I was on the Australian news, and then people said, "Oh my God, we loved how positive you were on the news." It was to help let go of stress during the quarantine that they were under,
Mhm.
and so it's just like an 8-minute video. But then the response and the news station said, "We got so many positive things coming from what you said," and then I thought, "Gosh, people probably really." Are struggling, because it's hard to find good news out in the world, right? And so I mean, it's not hard, but because I actually know so many freaking cool people that are
Mhm.
doing great things in the world. So what I've done with Stories We Love is I interview people who are doing something good for the world in some way, for children, for the environment, for something.
Mhm.
And so that thing, it just happened. I got a producer with no effort. Somebody's editing the things, and all I do is make dinner. I don't have to pay. It's like it's so fascinating how easily things can happen when you're in the flow state, that flow state that you talked about. It's the only state to be in, really, where you get to feel good, accomplish a lot, be healthy, and have great relationships all at the same time,
Mhm. I agree.
and be successful all at the same time, all those things.
It's all connected. Let's go into that second book. I'm very curious to hear about that second one.
Oh,
What
you're
kind of inspired you for the second one?
the second one. This is when my hair was blonder, and this was 2019. The first book was in 2018, and this is 2019, or I finished it in 2019, but it came out in 2020. But this book is a memoir. I'm an actress. I've been an actress. I've done over 1,000 hours of TV and film. And
Nice.
basically, my publisher said, we want to understand, we want to know you. And so it has a lot. I called it Effortless Enchantment because just how I've evolved. Now everything in my life, it feels like I'm living now in
Mhm.
this effortless enchantment. And it's kind of the whole story of how that happened, where it started in the very beginning of my life, where I knew it on some level as a child. I remember, this is so goofy, but when I was really little, I, maybe 4, my mom and dad had a big glass mirror on one wall, and the hallway was led right to where the mirror was. So I would run from the end of the hallway into my mom and dad's room to see. I was trying to catch who I really was, because I knew I wasn't this tiny body.
Mhm.
And so I was running, I'd run so fast, and then I'd get to the mirror and I'd be, dang, that's me again. And I'd run back and I'd try to get home. I was like trying to see who I thought that who I really was. If I got there fast enough, I would see it.
Right.
And my mom one time said, she's like, honey, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to see who I really am. And she said, you're Karen. And I said, no, I'm bigger. I'm not just this, I'm bigger. I'm not just this body. I'm bigger, so that was like something that my mom actually reminded me of it. And it was something that I had known as a kid, but forgot, that I'm not, yes, my body's wonderful. I love having a body, and there's so much more.
Mhm.
And so that's what kind of that book is about. And, and yeah, and it's fun. It's a fun read. Little,
So
little, little dark.
it's a little dark. So it's kind of just about finding yourself, like that example you said. It's just about finding your true, I guess, inner self, and just kind of revealing that.
Yeah, is part of it, and it's where I lost my way, and where I found my way again. It's where I had it, didn't understand it, lost it, that whole thing.
Okay,
Yeah, kind of.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So it just goes from years back and just your experience in life and kind of finding yourself, where you came from. That's awesome.
Yeah, and how things, when you are happy, there's so many things that happened in my life that were effortless,
Mhm.
that I didn't understand when they were happening, but now I do, because I was in that moment happy enough for things to happen. Like when I wanted to act, I was actually studying science at UC Irvine, and I was studying how the mind affects the body. And
Mhm.
then I had taken a class and thought, oh my God, this is the best feeling in the world, acting. And because I kept getting acting job offers. And so I took this class, and then I decided after like 3 months back and forth in my head, do I want to be a scientist? Do I want to be an actor? Do I want to be a doctor? Actors are stupid. I don't want to, I was like, don't want to do. Right. So I was like back and forth. And then this voice said, do you want something linear, or do you want a life of adventure? And I was like, adventure. And I immediately decided I was going to be an actor. And then the very next day I'm at lunch, I tell my friend, I want to be an actor. He says, oh, you got to get an agent. And I said, what is an agent? And he goes, they get you acting jobs. And I said, oh, cool. How do I get an agent? And he goes, you need a manager. And I said, what is a manager? And he said, they get you agent. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, how do I get a manager? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay. So I walk out of the restaurant. He's in the bathroom, and I'm waiting for him out front. And this woman walks up to me and she says, excuse me, are you an actress? Now I had just decided like the night before. And so I was like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, of course I am.
And she hands me her card and she says, my name's Dolores. You need to call me. I'm a manager and I'd love to talk to you about representing you. And I called her, and she ended up being my manager. She got me an
Hmm.
agent, and I started getting acting jobs. And it was like just this weird thing. And that kind of thing has happened, I'm sure, with everybody in their life in some way, where something just comes and you're like, oh wow, that was so easy, I didn't know.
Right.
But I once I got into this state of where I am now, where things are really aligned, I could see all those patterns of when they happened and when they didn't, and what I was doing in the space between.
Right. How many years ago did you start acting?
I was 20.
Oh, wow. So early.
Yeah, so I was 20 when I was acting. I started acting, and then I've just done um I just kept doing it, and I stopped doing it when I was really sick.
Hmm.
Like 14, for like 10 years. That's how sick I was. I couldn't function.
Right.
It's not a good sign. But I stopped it then because I fell asleep on camera at an audition.
Oh boy.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
I also fell asleep on camera during a film when I was filming with somebody. And
Hmm.
then what's so cool is I did a film uh, this last fall. And one of the nights we got there at 6 in the evening, and they said it's going to be a couple hours, but we worked till 3 in the morning. And I was the most energized person there.
Hmm.
And it was natural, I
I'm
don't
not surprised.
drugs or anything like that. But it was so easy, and everybody else was also really cold, and they were wearing parkas, and I'm wearing like a shirt and a little hoodie, nothing. And I was completely comfortable. And this was also the thing, there was no restrooms where we were, and I was like, it was amazing. I went nine hours. That's a long time without having to, and I drink a lot of water. So
Yeah, that's
it was
impressive.
like, yeah, I was like, everything in my life is changing. It's so exciting,
Jeez.
even my bladder.
That's good. So have you done kind of more TV shows or more like movies or more advertisements?
Mostly television shows. I was on a soap opera for 4 years. I played Tina on One Life to Live. I've done tons of, X-Files, NYPD Blue, Dharma and Greg, lots of Malcolm in the Middle, lots of fun things.
Nice.
And then I've done over 60 commercials.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done any movies?
Yeah, I've done a couple movies. Yeah,
Nice.
I've done a couple movies, and I've done yeah, and then some, whatever they're called, web series. I did a web show.
Mhm.
So now that we're doing that more. Yeah, I've done a
Nice.
ton of stuff. It's so fun. I love it. I love acting so much, but I love
I bet.
coaching too,
Hmm.
because I love watching people transform. I love when people can do something that they thought they couldn't do, but now they can. And I love when people think that they're limited in some way, and then they find this expansive freedom.
Hmm.
Make me so happy.
So you probably don't advertise at all for your services, huh? People just kind of come to you.
Yeah, I haven't advertised yet. I
Hmm.
know I could do. I just haven't felt the need yet.
Hmm.
So yeah, things just come, and literally, like, I went to a restaurant. Oh, I went to a restaurant, and I'm there by myself, and as I'm leaving, uh this other couple's leaving, and we start talking outside, and he says, why are you so happy, and what's going on with you, what's wrong, Yeah. He was ex cop, ex military. He was ex captain of the LAPD, actually,
Nice.
and ex military. But anyway, I said, oh, I'm an author, I wrote this was when I'd written my first book, and he read the book, and he said, okay, I want to work with you. And so I helped him with, like, he had, obvious PTSD. He was in Vietnam and
Hmm.
LA, you know.
Needless
And
to
so he
say.
had PTSD, he was depressed, he had anxiety, and all this stuff, and we cleared it. And it's just amazing. So that was just at a restaurant. I met somebody at an OsteoStrong, and she became my client. I go to the grocery store. I've met people at the grocery store, and then they become my client. So it's just funny.
Mhm.
It's just funny. I just let it happen.
That's awesome.
So far, but I'm
So,
gonna start advertising at some point. I just haven't done it yet.
right. So when you take on a client, what does that process kind of look like? Is it like a 12-week program, or is it just literally as long as they need? Is it structured anyway with time?
Well, with each client, before we get together, I mean, before we're working together, I do a consultation with them,
Mhm.
because I don't know what's going on. I don't know them. to
Right.
the level, like even with friends, I've worked with some people as friends. You know, even as a friend, there's stuff that I might ask in a consultation that I might never ask a friend,
Hmm.
right? And so I go pretty deep in the consultation, that's free. And then from there, I get to see, because everybody is different. Some people need more and some people need less. Some people can have really quick wins and some
Hmm.
people take a little longer. And either way is fine, you know? And so that's, I don't really know what somebody needs until after I've understood where they are, what they're wanting, what they've tried, what's blocking them,
Hmm.
and you know, and if they're wanting it enough to invest in themselves and to invest in having this freedom and this health and the good relationships and the more money and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So,
What's the most kind of common issue you see in a lot of people who come to you? What's the biggest thing most people have to get over, need to get over, want to get over?
you know, everybody's unique.
Hmm.
So part of it, what will happen is a lot of times people will come to me with some physical pain because my first book is about transmuting pain and fatigue into vibrant energy. So they'll come to me with physical pain or depleted energy, and so that's how they start. But once they get into it, they get it. It everybody's unique, but everybody will get, you know, that freedom they're looking for and more power and more energy and
Hmm.
or health. So what I found is everybody does have something, what I call subconscious belief systems.
Hmm.
It's not a fancy name, but everybody has programming from childhood that they aren't even aware of because it seems like it's normal, you know, because it's how you were raised. And we're in the first 6 years of life, we're in what's called a hypnagogic trance. And hypnagogic trance means that your brain is making more theta waves than anything else as a young one. And that's why kids can learn so fast. That's why kids are so relaxed most of the time. You know, they can actually just do things. They can pick something up and do it a lot faster than most adults can because they're in this very receptive state. But it's also where kids can learn things from people that love them, usually parents and teachers and friends and babysitters and whoever, television. They can learn things that really don't serve them. They can learn
Right.
things that limit them. And so that's what I've seen the most of is people have belief systems that they aren't conscious of that are limiting them. And that's why they have this fatigue, or that's why they have this pain, or that's why they have, you know, this problem in their relationship. It's almost always, even, for example, one of my clients had a car issue where there was a problem with the car and it was a used car that she'd bought. And so she contacted the car company and they said, oh, you know, it's too late. You can't give it back. And then she went to a place that she had gone to after she'd gotten the car for them to do some other whatever upgrades or something. And they said, you know, we don't know what the problem is. And nobody was helping her. And the insurance had given her a rental car, but it was time to be done. And nobody was helping her. And she was panicked, you know, because she didn't have a car and she needs a car to go to work and all this kind of stuff. So she was panicked. And so in the session we worked, and because of the consultation, I knew some of her history. And in her history, when she was a little girl, she'd had a trauma where a boy had done something very traumatic, and her family didn't help her. In fact, they made fun of her and they laughed at her.
Mm.
She was like 5, feeling all this shame and confusion and not understanding it and feeling scared. We healed that on a Wednesday. Thursday, she gets a call from the place that was trying to fix the car that had done the work on it before. And the guy said, look, I don't know what's wrong, but we're going to find a solution and I'm going to make sure that you get it right, that you get the solution. The car place that sold it to her said, look, you know, if you can't find a solution, we'll give you another car. And then the insurance came back and said, you can rent another car for another whatever time period that the guy had said. He had called the insurance on her behalf to
Hmm.
set it up that she could get another rental. And so like everything got handled. And she thought it was about the car, but
Hmm.
it was about when she was a little girl and something had not been healed enough, right?
Right. That makes
So it
sense.
seems it seems like it's about the car, it seems like it's about the roofers, or it seems like it's about whatever, you know. And even like with buying houses, one of my clients well, a couple, both of them were my clients. They went to go buy a house, and every house was way overpriced for what they could pay. But I gave them both coaching on it, and they went to go buy a house, and they put a bid down, and the bid was, I think, the third lowest bid. But the person who owned the house, who was selling it, and the real estate people liked their energy so much that even though they were paying less money, what they could afford, the house went to them.
Mhm.
And you think it's about, oh, you've got to have the biggest whatever, but the biggest offer on the house, but it's
Mhm.
not always that. There's something else that's going on
Mhm.
that when you tap into it, things happen.
Right. So basically you're starting out kind of learning people's kind of issues, what's going on, and then you just uncover more and more. And like I said, it's not about the car, it's not about the house, it's something much deeper. So a lot of the stuff just stems from our childhood, a lot of stuff that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
And my dad actually, he's been doing a little bit of counseling, and he's coming to find a lot of the issues he's had most of his life. A lot of it does stem from his childhood. So basically, his therapist is just really kind of finding his inner child, things that happened in his childhood that he hasn't kind of, I guess, reconciled with now. So they've been really working hard on that, and he's come a long way. It's really helping. So it's like going
So
over childhood trauma.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny because when I went to therapy, which I went to therapy for 30 years,
Wow.
it's a long time, and it didn't really help. I mean, I didn't kill myself, and I was suicidal, so that's good. It helped in that sense. All the therapists, I liked them. They were all lovely people, really great people. Um, and I loved who they were, but what was happening was I was getting re-triggered
Mm,
in therapy and not getting actually fully healed. And
mhm,
I was told you can't get fully healed from these kind of traumatic things that I'd had experience with, or you can't get everybody has some anxiety. That's not the case really. You don't have to have anxiety. I don't have any anxiety anymore. I mean, everything they said, you can never really recover when you have PTSD. It affects your whole physiology. But I learned how to shift my physiology through my connection with that part of me that I was trying to find in the mirror when I was 4. That connection helped me shift my physiology without me even knowing how. I didn't know the science behind it, but my physiology shifted so drastically that people who knew me before that, they can't believe that the shift. I can't,
mhm.
it's just amazing the difference.
Yeah.
I'm so calm. I'm passionate. I'm energized, but I'm calm.
Mhm.
And I don't do any medicine or anything like that. No drugs, nothing. And yeah, it's just incredible. And I was on all these drugs for the psych things and for the pain and all this stuff back when I was sick. And all of them had such severe side effects that I couldn't do it anymore. And I learned how to titrate off all the drugs in a safe way
Mhm.
so that I could do it. And then that's when I started to get better also. When I got
Mhm.
off all the drugs and I started to get better, like psych drugs and physical drugs. Not, I wasn't taking drugs to get high, but drugs that
Right.
doctor said take this for that and all this stuff.
Right.
And when I got off them, that's when I was able to really start to think clearly and
Mhm.
learn how to shift
Mhm.
in a whole way, in an authentic way, in a whole way that was trustworthy, meaning the shift stuck. It
Right.
took it took practice for it
Mhm.
to stick, but once it did, it stuck. Like the shifts are shifted.
It's permanent. It's definitely permanent. And that's the same thing I experienced. My shift, it's permanent now too. Like I have no choice but to continue on this path, and I'm very happy doing it. Yeah, it's huge. The shift is
Yeah,
amazing.
congratulations. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I have a whole new life ahead of me, and I'm very excited to get started on it. But yeah, medications, that's a tough one. It's like they're just a band-aid. They're just a quick fix. People just think, or doctors always are prescribing them. They only do like about 6 months of nutrition, like when they actually take classes on school to become a doctor. But most of the time, what they're taught is what medication to give to what ailment. That's pretty much all it is. So what they're doing, they are helping people, and there are emergency situations that yes, medications are necessary. Absolutely, I believe in that. But Yeah, it's not a
I'd have
long-term
my fridge
solution.
on my hand. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good things that doctors are doing. And you know, I think most people go into medicine because they care about people and
Hmm.
they want to help, you
Right.
know. So, but I will say, because I was pre-med when I was in school and I didn't finish, so, you know, I'm not educated on this in this totally, but one of the books that we were required, I believe we were required to get it, was the Merck Manual. The
Hmm.
Merck Manual is a book made by Merck, which is a pharmaceutical company, where in the book you look up what the problem is, and then it tells you which Merck drug you want to use.
Hmm.
And that's like part of the education process. And when you go into a doctor's office, almost always they have behind them, in the bookshelf behind them, they have the Merck manual, and it's up to date. They have to update it every year. And so it'll have the drug and what the drug does, and then the side effects, and then when not to do it, and what the dose. They have the whole, you know, it's just it. And I didn't realize that till years later. But I was like, oh, that's just marketing. You know, that's just marketing. That's just a company who wants to sell their stuff so they get people when they're learning, you know, and it's smart marketing. It's the right place to be, you know, make them have it in pre-med. You know, it's good marketing, but then doctors don't learn the kind of power we have. A lot, some do, but some doctors just aren't trained to learn the power that we have to heal ourselves. You know, I believe that what a doctor is meant to do is to help you get yourself out of the way so that your natural inherent capacity to
Instincts.
heal can come forth.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. There's a definitely a time and place for doctors, definitely a time and place for medications, but not the way, I mean, they're handling it these days. It's just, it's definitely out of hand. It's being used more than a band-aid, and that's not good. People are using them lifelong,
Yeah.
making a
And
lot of
that,
complications.
they should be a band-aid. If you've got a medicine, it or anything, it should be not, because what it does is most medicines, they don't actually heal the body, they just cover up the symptoms.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's why you have to do both. You can start with the medicine because you sometimes people need medicine to be well enough to uncover the symptoms, you know, what's causing the symptoms, the
Right.
root. And so there's nothing wrong with doctors. I think doctors are amazing. I have
Of
lots of
course.
good doctors, but I also know there's so much more that needs to be understood. There's so much more that is being studied and can be studied,
Hmm.
that is extraordinary with what we can do with our own physical health
Hmm.
and other aspects. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing of what I do. I mean, I kind of first started my Instagram and just kind of what I do to connect people to doctors who actually fix the root cause of disease and issues instead of just band-aiding them with medication. So that's been a huge part of my message, connecting people with like Dr. Paul Saladino, Mark Sisson, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Mike Berry. I could just go down the list. There's a lot of really amazing doctors who do not recommend medication. They only recommend medication for a time, just for an emergency situation, and then they show you how to correct your nutrition with diet, because it's amazing what you can actually do with diet. My ex-wife,
Dr.
she,
Rhonda Patrick, by the way. Sorry. I
did I
just
say it? Did I
Rhonda
say it wrong?
Patrick. You
Yeah,
said
Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
yeah, yeah, you said her name and I was
Okay,
like,
good.
"Oh, I have a girl crush on her." I'm straight. I like men, but I love her. She's so bright and she's so just everything good.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I've
I
I've definitely listened to a lot of her work. I don't agree with everything, but for the most part, I do agree with a lot of it. We're not going to agree with everything with everybody, and we all
yeah,
have our own opinions. But yeah, the point is just connecting people with actual doctors who are trying to fix with nutrition and not with medication. My ex-wife, actually, she had leukemia, and she was very tempted, obviously scared, very tempted to go the medical route, do the chemo treatment and all that. And we were actually able, me and my family were actually able to heal her just with diet changes alone. And it was huge. I mean, that was a lot of proof that, I mean, you don't have to go the medical route. You can heal with just better mindset, better clarity, better nutrition, because the body got to that state, it was because it's been starved of correct nutrition for years and years. The body takes a long time to break down.
but the mental and emotional food that we give is even more important than the food we eat,
Hmm.
because like for me, I didn't have to change my nutrition until I got healthy from almost every single thing that had been a problem,
Hmm.
and then changed my food. So
Hmm.
both are important. And I think the thing that's so interesting is, like people will say, oh, there's a genetic, um, you have something in your genes, let's say.
Hmm.
But genes can turn off and on. Genes aren't always on or always off unless you are repeating something. They have there's an epigenetic effect. And what's interesting to me is that yes, food is important, but you only eat it if you're doing one meal a day, you're only eating it once a day,
Hmm.
or you're eating it 3 times a day, or maybe somebody 5 times a day, let's say, or some people just graze all day. But it's not the same as the amount of what you feel, which is happening all day every day, and
Hmm.
what you think, which is happening all day every day. And
Hmm.
those two things are often overlooked in studies. When they're
Hmm.
doing a study, they might say, well, if people eat this way, they're going to be good. But did the people who ate that way and got good, was it because they believed it? Because it's our belief system that
Hmm.
is what is so powerful.
Yeah, the placebo effect in studies. The placebo effect is there for a reason. We can make ourselves believe a lot of things, and it can totally change a
Yeah.
lot within our bodies. It's huge.
Yeah. One of my doctor friends said that her somebody that she's friends with has dementia.
Hmm.
She's friends with a family, but their grandma has dementia. And she said that the grandma went to the doctors and was told she had cancer, but she didn't remember it. So she just kept saying, when somebody would say, "You have cancer," she said, "No, I don't have cancer. I'm healthy," and she cured herself. Now that's an anecdotal story, and then I have my own anecdotal stories with stuff like that. But it's fascinating, and I think the anecdotal stories would be good to be studied because there's often something there that's happening that can be a benefit.
Hmm.
And I think what a lot of times they do is they say, oh, that's just anecdotal. But what if we took all those anecdotal things and looked deeper and see what is actually going on that caused the physiology to shift?
Hmm.
That's what I'd like to, if I was a studier, I would like to study that kind of stuff. Like if I was a
Right.
medical studier, I'd look to see what are the, what are the, um, what are the anecdotes, and how can we aggregate them, and what can we learn from them?
I agree. Yeah, it's like I tell people all the time, you can eat as well as you want, you can exercise, be on top of exercise as much as you want, but if you're not sleeping enough, that's the biggest thing. Sleep is more important than anything else. If you're not sleeping enough, if you're not mentally balanced, if you're not, like, it's loving yourself, feeling positive, always in the negative, that's the biggest effect. Not sleeping enough, and what your mental state's in, what your mindset's in, your mind space. Those are the biggest things that are going to affect your health in a negative way. If they're negative, that has to be the first step, and then you can start going into diet.
And I'd say I call it the heart. Like I'm not mindful, I'm heartful.
Hmm.
And that's just something I've found for myself that I like, which is I do a heartfulness practice kind of constantly now, but I tried it at the beginning, just trying to get my heart full of
Hmm.
love. And that, I think, when you have your heart, because there's more nerves going from the heart to the head than from the head to the heart.
Hmm.
So the communication is meant to go this way, from the heart to the head. And so when people have their heart full of love, it's communicating to the brain all as well,
Hmm.
telling the brain to relax. So there's a real thing there. But I will also say, because I had narcolepsy, that was one of the last things to get healed. With narcolepsy, you don't sleep a lot. You might sleep like through 3 hours, and then you're awake for several hours, and then you're maybe asleep a couple more hours. So it's not a lot.
Yeah.
But I still had great energy during the day because I was in this state of emotional happiness.
Hmm.
And then having that energy. So even though I didn't get good sleep, it didn't matter. Like I didn't have a lot of sleep last night actually, because I went to go see my mom and it's a long drive. And so I got home late and I get up with the sun. So it was like
Hmm.
5 hours at the most. But I feel great. And I'm not saying you should do that, but if you're in alignment, if you're in that flow state, sleep doesn't have the negative impact on you that it can.
Right.
And sleep can get better and better and better as well. So it's both. But I think the most important thing for me, and this is just my thing, is the emotion. And then when you have something where you don't sleep well, it doesn't impact you in the same way.
Hmm. I agree. Yeah, that's huge, man. I
Oh,
want to go so much longer. We have so much more to say. We haven't even gotten into your third book, and I really want to dive into that as well. But we definitely have a lot more to talk about another time. This has been exciting.
you're so sweet. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so happy for your ex-wife. That's fantastic that she
Yeah. Thank you.
that is huge. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, so many things have inspired me to do what I'm doing. I mean, that was a big one right there. It's just realizing and understanding. I had my doubts at the time. I was thinking, man, maybe she should do the chemo route. Maybe she should go the doctor route. But I mean, we stuck to our guns and we just said we can fix this with just diet and lifestyle changes, and we did. But that was one of the big reasons, and it was a very emotional reason. That's very much so what got me on my path of helping people with autoimmune diseases, with cancer, with low testosterone, diabetes. I mean, it's all just the body has broken down over time and it can be fixed. The body can regenerate. It is capable of regenerating everything. Obviously, you can't grow back limbs or anything, but
Well,
there is a lot the body can do. What's that?
we don't know if you can't grow back limbs. I mean, starfish do it, geckos do it. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it's just because we don't believe it. I don't know. I haven't grown back a limb, but I'd like to keep an open mind on that one, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Why not? I don't see why not. That'd be amazing. Yeah. Sky's the limit. Your body can regenerate many things, almost everything. So that's one of the big takeaways as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed talking with you. It was nice to finally kind of see you on this Zoom call. And yeah, we'll definitely set up another time. We have a lot more to kind of dive into, and maybe my coach Stephen Mays, we can all dive in together in the next one. That'd be fun.
That sounds fun. And I just want to say, if anybody's listening and you guys want to download my books for free, can I
Yeah,
just link?
of
It's
course.
Chronic Pleasure. So CHRONIC Pleasure, PLEASURE, book, singular, BOOK. So chronicpleasurebook.com. And you can get all three of my books, or just one if you want, and download them for free.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. And then where can people find you on, I guess, Facebook, Instagram, any social media platforms you have?
Just my name, Karen, Karen, Lorre, Lorre. I do get an extraordinary amount of friend requests, so it's hard to like 700 a day. So it's hard to
Whoa.
um, respond to everybody. So if you do want to reach out to me, send me a message, because
Mhm.
I can get the messages whether you're friends or not. Um, and then that way I have like that I can actually connect with you.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Tyler. You're amazing. It's so fun. I'm so proud of who you are, and it's
Thank
just
you.
cool to see how much you've transformed.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm stoked to know you and to, I mean, we're gonna be friends now. We're gonna continue this relationship. We got a lot more to talk about, and I'm excited. It's a very pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya.